Good afternoon. Welcome to the October 15th, 2025 Oldham County Technical Review Committee meeting. It is 1:01 and we'll call the meeting to order. My name is Ryan Fisher. I'm the Director of Oldham County Planning and Development. The purpose of this meeting is to review proposed subdivisions, zoning map amendments, and development plans before they go forward to the Planning Commission. This gives local agencies and utility companies, those represented here in front of you today, those that will provide services the opportunity to review those plans, discuss and comment about the accessibility of services, and ensure all aspects of the development plans adhere to zoning and subdivision regulations. This meeting also provides adjoining property owners and concerned citizens in attendance the opportunity to ask technical questions of the applicants or agencies represented before you. Once again, to ask technical questions, all right? And we want to make sure we stay true to that. We will allow a combined 20 minutes of time for those comments. No testimony in favor or against an application will be taken at this meeting, and no decisions at all are made at this meeting. And so we have one case on the docket. If you are here for the Glen CDJR dealership, that has been taken off the agenda. So we have one case on the agenda, that's TRC 25-018 for a proposed subdivision known as Camden Ridge. I would ask that everybody just check your phones, make sure they're on silence. If you do have to take a phone call, please just leave the room if you can. And with that, the way this will be set up is the applicant will come forward first and give a brief presentation of their project. Then all the agencies represented here before you will provide comments to the applicant. And then we'll allow for the public comment, and we'll go over the ground rules of that again once we get to that. So with that, we will begin with this preliminary subdivision plan of Camden Ridge. If the applicant wants to come forward.
Thank you all very much, members of the committee. I'm Cliff Ashburner with Dinsmore & Scholl here on behalf of the applicant. I'm going to run through just a few slides very quickly, and then I look forward to receiving your comments. Kevin Young and Eric Sen, both with Land Design and Development, are here today as well. The likelihood is if you have technical questions about the plan, I'm going to turn and look at one of them, and they will probably be better prepared to provide the answer. So this is the subject property and the proposed subdivision layout. You can see the primary access is off South Camden Lane, but given the location of this property and the number of other subdivisions that surround it, there are multiple connections to other subdivisions. So you can see that there's a cul-de-sac that is roughly directly across South Camden from Montfort Lane. There would be a connection there. There's a connection to Willow Bend in Lake Point, and then a connection to Lincoln Trail in Kentucky Acres. We're aware that there's community concern about those connections, and I'll talk just a moment about how this version of the plan stays true to a previously approved version of this plan. So in 2007, this subdivision plan was approved. That approval was appealed, and through the Kentucky court system, the approval that was granted at the time was upheld. So, and you may notice that this plan looks very familiar because it is essentially the same plan as what we are proposing today. The same road connections, the same lot configuration. The one issue that may or was an issue previously and for which we may be seeking a waiver, although I'm not 100% sure on that, is along Asher's Run. Previously, there was the idea that there would be a separate parcel created along Asher's Run, and that parcel would be placed into some kind of conservation easement or otherwise preserved. The thinking is now that that would be left on the lots that area would be restricted to make sure that Asher's Run is not negatively impacted and that vegetation isn't removed in that area unnecessarily. So that is one issue. Another issue that we heard at our community meeting, which occurred, I don't know, a month ago or so, really had to do with the connections and the timing of the connections. So the plan in a nutshell, the property is zoned AG1 and CO1. All of the lots meet or exceed the requirements with the exception of that potential waiver for frontage at the building limit line for these lots along the cul-de-sac and these here. But other than that, this is almost identical to the 2007 plan, and we are happy to take your comments.
All right. I'll begin. Anna Barge is the case manager for this. She is out of town, so I get to read her comments for you. And then there's one that I'd like to add on there, and it may already be on your plans, but I'm going to add it anyways. So her following comments, and I do have a copy of this letter for you, are the following. Consolidate plans to one page before submission to the Planning Commission. If you've been here before, she scolds you all for not having folded copies the correct way. I'm not that sensitive to the matter, but she does have a note to make sure you provide the folded copies for her. Number 2 is added the right-of-way information in the word south for the existing South Camden Lane. Number 3 is include the proposed building lines showing the distance setback from the street right-of-way. Number 4 is coordinate with the GIS manager regarding the street names, and I think he'll probably have comments on that in just a second as well. Number 5, note any access points designated for use by construction vehicles. And that was actually the one I was going to add, so I don't get to add one now, sorry. Because I know there's been a lot of comments from individuals about, the construction traffic going into the adjoining neighborhood. So that may have a little bit to do with the timing of connections, but wanted to make sure the construction vehicles are addressed. Number 6, add a description of the general type of trees that exist on the parcel. Number 7, correct the contour lines to be 5 feet. 8, please make the following correction to 3207 South Camden Lane's parcel ID, which should read 41-00-00-34A3B etc. Number 9, add the amount of open space to the site statistics if applicable. Number 10, for the lots on cul-de-sacs, add a tangent line that measures the lot width. And I think you were mentioning waivers earlier, but I think variances is what you all are asking for, I think, correct? Sorry. That's what I'm here for. And then regarding those variances, there are variations in the actual lot width and road frontage for the lot seeking those variances. Please rephrase the variance to state how much of the variance each lot is seeking. So that is all of Ms. Barge's comments. We do have an email from LG&E. I did not provide a written copy of this because it says I will not be attending and LG&E has no comments at this time. So I really didn't think you guys needed a copy of that. If you want one, I'll get you one. But that's what that says. Also provided written comments from the Oldham County Engineer's Office, which we'll talk in just a second, as well as Oldham County Water's comments for you as well, which they'll address in their comments. So with that, we'll start with Derek Shade from the County Engineer's Office.
Good afternoon. I'm Derek Shade. I'm representing the engineering office today. Usually Jim Silman, the county engineer, is here, but he had a prior obligation that he couldn't avoid, so he apologizes for not being here today. I'm going to read through some select comments on the letter. I'm not going to go through all of them just because a lot of them are some comments that we would generally make during construction plan review and not really at this stage of the game. So I'm just going to focus my attention on the comments that we would make for this venue. So permitting. Land disturbing area is going to be over 1 acre for this project. As such, the applicant shall obtain a KYR 10 permit from the Kentucky Division of Water and an Oldham County Stormwater Quality Management and Erosion Control permit. Based on a review of USGS's The National Map, it appears jurisdictional blue line streams and wetlands are located within the project limits. If a jurisdictional stream or wetland is going to be impacted, permitting from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Kentucky Division of Water may be required. So when we get farther down the road, we're going to be expecting those permits to come in with the construction plans. On the plan set, we do not observe detention basins within the project limits and understand from conversations with the applicant's designer that the intent is to utilize the remaining capacity provided by the lake within the Lake Point subdivision as stormwater detention. If that is the case, supporting calculations are going to have to be provided that substantiate it can control the post-development flows associated with the 2, 10, and 100-year design storms. Otherwise, the applicant shall design and construct an independent detention basin for this project. Water quality treatment is also going to be required pursuant to sections 5.3 and 6.0 of our county ordinance. And as part of construction plan review, those calculations will have to be provided. Whether using an existing or a new detention/retention basin, it's going to have to be encompassed in a drainage easement, which shall be recorded with Oldham County Clerk. That easement shall be recorded with a long-term stormwater maintenance agreement. If the existing regional basin is used, the recording is also going to have to be provided with an instrument that delineates maintenance responsibilities between the HOAs. And we just like to note, we typically say this with this comment all the time, but we generally will restrict the release of the erosion control surety until that's accomplished. General Note 8 of the plans state that this project is located in Zone X. Please check that. I believe there are some portions of this site that are in Zone A. General Note 14 states a 15-foot sewer and drainage easement will be added along Asher's Run. We have a requirement that sewer and drainage easements be added to all jurisdictional streams. Those easements should cover the width of the stream bank to bank. In addition, all stormwater piping facilities and conveyance outside the right-of-way shall also be placed in an associated stormwater easement. Okay. Horizontal and vertical curves were not assessed as part of this review. It's not uncommon at this time, as I was talking about before, for this stage of the development. However, several horizontal curves appear to have relatively small radii given the required 25-mile-per-hour design speed. The applicant shall ensure the roads are designed to satisfy an acceptable design standard. The applicant shall ensure the minimum radius of cul-de-sacs with a length of 1,000 feet or less is 39 feet in radius. The applicant should ensure the maximum slope for the cul-de-sac bulbs is 4%. All right. I'm now going to be referencing the previous planning and zoning approval from 07. Conservation easement. As noted in the binding elements from PZ-08-003, the applicant shall either donate a conservation easement or apply a no disturb area no disturb area written in the same manner as the conservation easement. Oldham County Engineering will request this binding element be included for the current development plan. Direct discharge septic systems. As noted in that same decision, no state Division of Water permitted home sewage treatment units of any type with direct discharge to the lane or a water course will be allowed. Oldham County Engineering will request this binding element be included for the current development as well. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about traffic impact. The development of the subdivision shall account for impact of construction traffic has on the existing roads. Specifically, the applicant shall propose a route for construction traffic that minimizes the impact of county roads, considers the minimal width of South Camden Lane, and complies with any weight limits associated with the structure on Willow Bend Drive. As discussed recently with the applicant's designer, restricting the use of existing subdivision roads may be accomplished by the county road department placing concrete barricades at proposed connections within the proposed subdivision. We do this from time to time with other developments. We have no problem coordinating with the road department for the placement of those barricades. So just let us know. As noted in the binding elements from PZ TAC 08, TAC 003, the applicant agreed to pay $1,500 per lot to Oldham County to go toward roadway improvements in the general area of Camden Ridge subdivision, provide construction plans for improvements to the 1,100 feet of roadway, and assist with bidding processes. Oldham County is coordinating with the applicant and their designer regarding updating this binding element to adjust for current construction costs and inflation. We will continue to coordinate with the developer and their designer regarding this requirement. Okay, my last comment, based on the number of lots in this development, the number of peak hour trips does not constitute per our regulations to require a traffic assessment nor a traffic impact study. However, we understand that the proposed roadway connections result in much greater trip redistribution, and as such, the applicant's engineer is preparing a traffic impact study to reflect those changes. This study shall be provided to our office with sufficient advance notice prior to the Planning Commission hearing so that we have appropriate time to review it. And those are all of my comments. I have a copy of the red line plans and a copy of this letter for you whenever you want to pick that up.
May I just ask one quick, what is sufficient time? Is that 2 weeks? Is that a week on the traffic study? What do you guys like to have?
As much time as you can provide, just not a few days is kind of what we're intending that to mean.
I think we anticipate getting the traffic study back from our traffic engineer mid-November.
Okay.
I don't think this would go to the Planning Commission until December.
Okay.
So that should provide enough time.
That should be
for you.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Jim typically says 2 weeks, but yeah. Matt Toller with GIS.
As usual, you can just send me a list of all the proposed street names that you're going to want to use. I'm sort of concerned about continuing to use Camden or South Camden Lane into the subdivision, especially around like the loop as it loops back on itself. That from a 911 standpoint becomes very difficult to have some kind of coherent addressing range. So when you think about that, if you can submit just a total amount of, road names, and I can give you a list of all the street names that we have in the county, just so that it doesn't sound like anything or it's not duped anywhere else in the county. But other than that, and then we'll address it if it gets approved.
All right, Charlie Ward with Oldham County Health Department.
So back in June 12th of 2007, there was a preliminary subdivision site evaluation that was already done and conducted for this property. That was done under Greg Lewis, 2 environmental directors previously ago. I used his notes and some of my own knowledge, but I didn't want to comment on what his findings were, so I went back out and conducted the survey myself. So went out and dug a total of 13 pits and just hand augered out there. I did stay out of the conservation area in the lower southwestern corner, and I did stay out of the cornfield because I don't disturb farmers' cornfields. I don't do that. So overall findings were rather provisionally suitable, with upgrades being made to those specific lots that would need to have, say, either a change in installation depth due to restrictive erosion, modeling by the presence of groundwater, and having curtain drains installed. But overall, subdivision appears to be, provisionally suitable. But again, this wasn't any kind of specific where we would go back and do a site evaluation for every property as houses are to be built to know a specific site location, utilities, houses, impervious surfaces, where everything is going to be marked, and then come back and make a specific visit for that property at the time at which a homeowner or resident wants to build onto the property. So.
All right, Michael Williams with Oldham County Schools.
So based on the 64 and the numbers that we have agreed with planning and zoning, it calculates out for us to 8 students at this point. I'm going to give you a preliminary, this is what the schools are going to be, because we have 3 elementary schools that meet at that point, like the lines meet at that point, and we have 2 high schools that the lines meet at that point. So right now, it's slated as Camden, East Middle, South High. Based on the added capacity that will be going into South High, it puts the capacity numbers right now at about 88%. So that would grant 35 units per year. But that might change slightly if we look at it and say, oh no, it's got to go to Centerfield and Oldham County High School. It might change slightly.
Russ Rose with Oldham County Water.
Hi. So we've done a preliminary review and obviously haven't reviewed any construction plans at this time, but this lies within the service area of the water district, and we fully believe we can serve this without any problems and without affecting any other neighborhoods. There's an existing line that runs through the farm, and that we know that line won't stay in place, but a replacement for that will need to stay in place. And then there'll be connections at all the connecting roads as well. So, but we provided a copy of our letter to Ryan, and he can forward that to you. So we don't have any additional comments this time.
All right, and Bill Blakely with South Oldham Fire.
No comments this time on the project. My only question is the access coming off of South Camden Lane, which actually is a little tight right now. Are they looking at doing anything with actually South Camden before this project or anything in the future?
All right.
The roadway on South Camden is a little tight for fire apparatus right now. I'm going to find out if there's going to be any work done on it prior to this project going in.
Yeah, I think that's part of the conversation we're going to have with Oldham County, the engineer's office, about the extent of that work and who's responsible for what part. South Camden is what it is today. And even without the subdivision, the condition of South Camden probably should be improved for fire apparatus. But we started this discussion several months ago, and we'll continue it probably through the Planning Commission hearing of exactly what the allocation is of responsibility and what areas need to be improved first.
All right. Thank you. So that brings us to public comment. And so we will have 20 minutes of time for these comments. And once again, these are to be questions that are technical in nature, either ask of the agencies represented here before you or of the applicant. So we just ask that if you want to speak, you come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, slowly so that Christy can write it down and make sure she has that for her minutes. And then we'll let you start. So whoever wants to be first, we're pretty informal in this meeting, so whoever wants to go first, just raise your hand or come on down.
All right. My name is Rhett Hill. That's RHETTHILL. I live at 5705 Clover Drive, right at the end of Montford. Good afternoon. My name is Rhett Hill. I live in Crawfordville Farms. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak today on behalf of our neighborhood and others affected by the Camden Ridge proposal. We know growth is coming to Oldham County, and we accept that, but we also expect that development will happen in a way that protects existing families, roads, and resources. Camden Ridge, as proposed, has not yet met that standard. I want to start with the roads. I don't know the last time y'all drove on South Camden. It's not the best, and we know it's not the best. We got a report recently of road improvements that will be made. South Camden has been listed as one of the most unhealthy roads in Oldham County. It has several blind curves, shoulder issues, steep grades that are dangerous in winter. Some sections are as narrow as 14 feet wide. So we constantly have to drive off the road if we're meeting another vehicle, right? This is no place to funnel hundreds of extra cars once this connects to Kentucky Acres. The Camden Ridge Plan does more than add 64 homes. It connects over 400 households into a new corridor, a shortcut between Kentucky Acres and Highway 22. While this could be helpful for emergency services, it also opens the door to far greater traffic. Right now, South Camden cannot support that kind of load. We're also facing school capacity issues, which Mike had addressed. My child, my 14-year-old, started high school this year. He's riding 3 wide per seat on a bus on the way to school. So we've been told there's some math equation. I would like to see if Mr. Williams could share that out and make that available to everyone that determines whether our schools can support growth or not. Environmentally, we're also deeply concerned. Asher's Run runs through this site, and in 2021 was listed as impaired due to fecal contamination and high levels of E. coli. Oldham County did receive a federal 319H grant to help address this issue, of which I'm sure you're all keeping track of the restoration efforts. Yet, as you mentioned, Derek, they still need that KYR10 permit and the stormwater plan, so thank you for addressing that. We're also asking for accountability. Who will repair Camden Lane after the heavy trucks? Because I know it's getting resurfaced, but who's going to fix it after all this construction equipment tears it up? What's the plan for road safety during construction? How will regular passenger vehicles, emergency vehicles, sanitation trucks, and buses coexist with all this heavy equipment? These aren't hypothetical questions. They're real, documented, and supported by public record. We're not asking for perfection. We're asking for basic compliance with the law and responsible planning that protects residents. I do want to thank you for your time today and for hearing the voices of the people who live here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have some handouts.
All right.
I'm Kevin Cook. I live in
Just wait till you get to the mic. So.
Okay. Kevin Cook, Point. Oh, I'm sorry. I hit your button here. 7404 Willow Bend Drive. And I have been on the board at Lake Point way back in 2003, 2004 timeframe. We had a major concern at that time because the Army Corps of the dams came in and said that we had to have another point of egress to our allotment. And that became a large project for us to gather funds to start working on that. So we're not saying we aren't welcoming this opening. I am saying that if that dam is damaged, or that roadway over the dam is damaged, we will not have any way of getting in and out of our own homes. So could this planning consideration, number one, cover some insurance on that bridge in the worst case scenario? But secondly, can we certainly have that connection made first as a priority so that we can be assured that we can get in and out of our property? The last point, though, is how much more traffic is going to be generated across roads that, and if we're talking very minimally maintained roads now, and they are very curved, and that's not a problem when you're at the end of a cul-de-sac. It's a major problem if it becomes a throughway. And I don't believe the planning has been in effect there. So we would like to see that plan. It needs to be thought carefully out. I also have the pleasure of being right beside the Brownsboro Road Bridge where our Waterson's crossing right now. And the state claimed they planned that well too. It's down to 2 lanes and my business is about half right now. So I'm not happy with roadway planning in this area. So you don't need that in the comments. Thank you for letting us stress.
Thank you.
Afternoon.
Hello.
James Osborne, 7614 Willow Bend Drive. It's OSBORN. So we've submitted many questions. Do we need to read those into the minutes, or will they be included in the minutes?
Well, you can read them into the minutes. That way she'll have them. But I know most of these, I think, have been directed at engineering probably. I know there's been several emails going back and forth with him. But yeah, if you want to.
All right, so I'll start with the road. What is the risk to opening Willow Bend to more traffic, and what is the benefit to Lake Point subdivision? More importantly, like what Mr. Cook was talking about, was the higher impact on our dam that we're responsible for, and what assurances are going to have be made so that if something happens to our dam, how does the county help us with that? What speed control devices are going to be made, because this Willow Bend is already 1 mile long, and people like to fly down our road, and it's a closed road now. There's many blind curves on our road, and they are not easily seen when you go up and down the hills. With the connection point, if the connection point happens, what type of gate can be considered, or traffic stop device, to prevent other neighborhoods driving through our community? Then on the dam side, what is the plan to make sure that Reynolds Meadows Dam stays structurally sound with additional traffic? What tests are being performed? What improvement plans are being made? Same to go with Reynolds Meadows Dam Bridge. What assessments have been made to that? It has been in existence now for over 30 years without any maintenance done to the physical roadway. Has anyone from the Planning Commission or the applicant reached out to dam safety at the state? We have some information that they are highly concerned about additional traffic. Highly concerned downstream. Next is flooding. Disturbing this area is obviously going to cause more runoff into our lake. When Kentucky Acres was built, that did not seem to be taken care of. We are getting additional sediment into our lake that we're having to deal with. So how is that sediment going to be adjusted for as it flows into our lake? And the schools were already addressed. I will say this on the school, though. Teachers are starting to tell our kids that they're going to be redistricted. My daughter goes to South Oldham Middle, and the teachers are saying that to our kids. So I'm pretty upset about that.
No decision has been made on that. We do that an annual evaluation when we do projections each year. So it is a part of growth, but we try to minimize that as much as possible. And the last time that we redistricted was when Mr. Schultz was superintendent. So that's been at least 6 or 7 years. So we try not to do it more than once in a student's school career, not their entire 12-year career, but in the career at a specific school.
Well, when you tell a 12-year-old girl that you might not be going to that same school with her friends, that's a problem.
I get it, but
so. And then for fire safety response, that there's been some comments made by other parties saying that this will benefit fire response to our neighborhood. We don't understand because we've mapped it from the fire stations. Camden Lane is not going to be the primary. So that seems to be a technical misnomer for Willow Bend Drive residents. So we are going to ask once again, what is the technical reason to open our road up to this new subdivision? It cannot be fire safety and EMS because we have mapped it. It is not true. And other than the quality of life stuff, which I've already submitted in writing, that is all of our questions for right now.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. My name is Mike Arth of 5702 Clover Drive. I want to emphasize that I do support responsible growth and the new neighbors. However, I strongly oppose the proposed connector road linking South Camden Lane to Kentucky Acres, Lake Point, and West Mount Sinai Road. This connection would transform a narrow substandard residential road lane into a dangerous collector point. Currently, on South Camden Lane, there are numerous points that have 14 feet wide at the widest point. It's far below the 20-foot minimum pavement width, which is actually 28 feet when you have shoulders, or the 60-foot right-of-way required by Oldham County subdivision regulations at this time. We have several blind hills, 4 sharp turns, and 2 straight 90-degree turns. So turning South Camden into a collector would require full reconstruction of South Camden Lane, widening, grading, drainage, and safety improvements. Oldham County subdivision regulations 3.6.2 and 4.2 are where I got this information from. As a battalion chief for Anchorage Middletown Fire Department, I cannot speak on behalf of South Oldham, who is the responding district for this neighborhood. However, following the International Fire Code's Appendix D requires 20 to 26 feet of clear width for hydrants. Currently, we're at 15 feet. Based on the numbers that we gave before, the $1,500 per house, that comes into less than $100,000 for roadway improvements provided to the county by the developer. Far substandard from the 1,100 feet where they propose the project will end at Oldham, or at Outer Circle Drive. The remaining 2 miles of South Camden Lane would not be developed based on that proposal. Based on Kentucky Transportation Department's 2023 study of 1818 shows 3,446 vehicles per day. Adding 64 homes to Camden Ridge is 602 trips, adding 67 per hour, a peak hour. Even if we take half of this now being a through road, we now have over 2,000 travels per day on a road that can barely handle 1 lane at this time. So using this as a connector through from Mount Zion Road, Lake Point, Kentucky Acres, and South Camden Lane, it encouraged commuter and non-local traffic. We currently see that with Spring Hill subdivision that has recently been developed. Google Maps currently has you going from Highway 22, cutting through the entire neighborhood to go to 329 bypass and 71. As the hospital is built there, this will only get worse. As 1818 is developed, this will only get worse, with everybody cutting through all 3 of our neighborhoods to get back to 22. So what we're requesting is a complete traffic study, including 1818, and not just the theoretical Kentucky Acres traffic point on there. In addition to this, it also opens up the county for potential liability. We're telling you that the road is substandard, and approving this without complete renovation of South Camden Lane opens us up to the point where liability is effectuated at that point in time due to the substandard part, and then approving this becoming a collector point and not a residential street. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Kip McNally. I reside at 3305 South Camden Lane. I'd like to reiterate what the gentleman just said about the roadway. This hearing should serve as a notice of a dangerous condition to the county, and that if there's any accidents on the county would be liable. There are 2 90-degree turns I have to go through every day. And when I go to my daughter's house, I have to go down that hill with the S-curve that has a severe blind spot in it. Then when you go up the hill back toward where this property is, there's a rise that creates a blind spot even though it's straight. I've almost been hit there a few times. And I was just curious, before I came out here, I measured the width of the road in front of my mailboxes. It's 17 feet 3 inches. Then I went down to a place where the road was more narrow, and the blacktop is 16 feet. And at that point, there is no shoulder. The blacktop just drops basically straight off, and it drops down to about 8 or 10 feet. So if a car drops off there, they're going to end up in my front yard, probably upside down. It's a very dangerous condition. And back to Mr. Toller's comments about the street names. Back when Amazon first started delivering, we used to get packages for all kinds of places that had Camden in their name. And my wife called people, and she knows a lot of people around the county, having worked at the hospital for decades, and she actually delivered them. So the street names are a serious problem of defining locations. And then sometimes Amazon people just leave stuff at our mailbox down by the road because they can't find it. And then I want to address the intersection of 22 and South Camden. That road right there where it intersects, I didn't measure it because I didn't have time and it's a little dangerous. But I know when I come up from Crestwood, you're coming up and you're not making a 90-degree turn. It's kind of backhanded. And when you're pulling a trailer like I do frequently, I have a 20-foot trailer. If there's a car sitting there, that trailer drags off the blacktop. And so that intersection would have to be, if you put a turn lane there, which would be absolutely necessary, it's going to have to be widened. There's not enough room there. And AT&T has a communication vault there about, I don't know, I guess 8-10 feet off the blacktop. And I can see if there's two cars sitting there, one to turn right, one to turn left, I could see myself running over that communication vault with my trailer. I just couldn't avoid it. So that's all I have. Do you gentlemen have any questions for me?
Mm-mm.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
My name is George Nix. I live at 6405 Oakley Drive. I've heard a lot about work being done on South Camden, but as you all are probably aware, Oakley starts and ends on South Camden. I'm interested in what would be done in the way of upgrades or consideration to upgrades, since it would be very naive from my perspective to think that Oakley would not be used as a cut-through at some point in time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Lesh, Leche, Willow Bend Drive. Just wanted to make sure that my email had been received by you guys with my questions, and they make the minutes. I only have one question. Did the original plan that only had South Camden as an entrance to this new development, was this for 64 lots requesting variances on 7 of those lots? Thank you.
Do you want to answer that for them? Hold on just a second. Do you want
Yeah. Mr. Lesh, this is the 2007 plan. So it was the same number of lots and the same road connections as is being proposed today.
My question was before the Willow Bend, before they asked you to make the Willow Bend connection. There was an original drawing.
Well, yes, there was an original drawing. This is the drawing that ultimately got approved, though. So that's the only one that, I mean, a lot of these plans go through multiple iterations. The one that the Planning Commission acted on is the one that's on the screen now. Okay.
Hello, my name is Laura Volk. I'm a resident at 7612 Willow Bend Drive. Mr. Fisher, I had emailed several questions to you yesterday, and Mr. Silliman was kind enough to respond. My question is, should I read these questions off for the record? Because I would definitely like for the developer and the attorney representing them to be aware of those questions.
Yes, you can.
Go ahead?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. First question, if immediate or future repairs to the dam on Willow Bend Drive are required due to a reclassification of the dam, and if traffic is to be opened to the new subdivision, who is responsible for repairs and maintenance to the culvert over the spillway and the dam? Is the Kentucky Energy and Environmental Cabinet / Dam Safety and Floodplain Compliance Section / Division of Water going to be contacted by the county prior to a decision being made to connect Willow Bend Drive to the Camden Ridge proposed subdivision? Third, I have very lengthy questions regarding the maps that I have presented as they relate to the proposed project. Map 1 was provided by Dinsmore and Scholl at the September 16th, 2025 meeting held at the Oldham County Fire Station. This map indicates the proposed property boundary for the subdivision, and it's aligned with the Willow Bend Drive. Map 2, provided by the Oldham County Planning and Development Services in a letter dated September 2025, indicates that the property boundary for the proposed subdivision is not connecting to the end of Willow Bend Drive, but rather farther from the end of the roadway towards 7400 Willow Bend Drive. Map 3, located utilizing CGIS maps, also identifies the property boundary for the proposed subdivision to be similar to Map 2 in that the property line does not appear to line up with the end of Willow Bend Drive, but further towards 7400 Willow Bend Drive. So, if the property boundary does not align with Willow Bend Drive, how can the properties be connected or be made to connect to Willow Bend Drive and the Lake Point subdivision? Is a pinned survey going to be required to resolve the apparent discrepancies? And I did attach all maps to the original email. Number 4, who from the state of Kentucky is responsible for determining how much additional water runoff will enter the lake belonging to the HOA of the Lake Point subdivision? And after calculating the amount of water that will be flowing into the lake, is the Kentucky Energy and Environmental Cabinet / Department for Environmental Protection / Dam Safety and Floodplain Compliance Section, Division of Water, to be provided with that information prior to any decision regarding the proposed subdivision at 2800 South Camden Lane? And how will that impact the dam and the spillway as well as the lake? Okay, number 5, during the September 16th, 2025 public meeting at the Oldham County Fire Station, Mr. Ashburner stated on behalf of the proposed subdivision that the developer was not in favor of the connection and through traffic related to Willow Bend Drive. In a letter from Mr. Ashburner dated September 24th, 2025, Mr. Ashburner writes that the 2007 plan did not initially show connection to Willow Bend Drive, but this connection was requested by the planning staff at that time, and again with the new subdivision request. Connectivity is required by the Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Regulations. The Willow Bend Drive cul-de-sac was built as a placeholder until a connection would be made. However, I have read through the Oldham County Subdivision Regulations, Article 5, Section 5.2, B2, Subdivision Design Principles, which state, the layout of a local street system should not create excessive travel links and should provide connections to adjacent properties unless topographic constraints prohibit the connections. Isn't the Lake Point subdivision dam and culvert considered a topographic constraint to prohibit connections based on potential environmental issues and the potential for extremely expensive maintenance and possible upgrades to the dam and spillway if the proposed subdivision is connected to Willow Bend Drive? Furthermore, the increase of traffic, including construction vehicles, etc., bearing heavy loads for each proposed home, but not excluding the road building equipment, will all add additional strain to this topographic constraint. 6, has a limited access gate available only for first responders and emergency situations been considered for the connection of Willow Bend Drive and the proposed subdivision on South Camden Lane? 7, if road connection is to be made, how will construction traffic be monitored and enforced? 8, if Willow Bend Drive is to be connected, given the concerns for the dam, can or will the road connection be delayed until such time that construction of the new subdivision becomes complete at 2800 South Camden Lane? And finally, my last question was if answers will be provided in writing, and those were provided in writing to me. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wanted to, how many more people wanted to speak? Okay. Okay. I'm feeling generous today, so you're good.
Alec Taylor, 5814 Montfort Lane. Mr. Fisher, I exchanged an email yesterday with you and the county engineer's office that I just want to get in the minutes, and that is about the crossing over Asher's Run on South Camden at Outer Circle. Sounds like the state does not classify that as a bridge based on the definition of a bridge. But we are concerned about the weight capability of that crossing and whether it is able to support this increased level of traffic and any and all construction traffic and the impact that would have on access to the neighborhoods and potentially Asher's Run itself should something happen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Do you all have any answers that you all want to make to anything that was brought up?
I guess actually have one question of Mr. Hill, Rhett Hill. You mentioned a report dictating that Camden was slated for some improvement. I've not seen that. If you have a copy of that, I'll give you my card when we're done with the meeting. If you could share that with us, that'd be great. When it comes to dam safety, certainly I'm happy to contact the state to see what they say about the dam and what would cause a concern there. I think we all recognize that South Camden is a road that needs some attention, and that attention is going to be given during this review process. So that's something I think we agree on. As far as there was a question about who reviews drainage, I think that's actually the Oldham County engineer who's going to review that drainage. And that's really it. We've made note of the concerns that were listed. These are not dramatically different, if different at all, from concerns that were expressed during our community meeting. And we look forward to addressing the concerns that were expressed that are relevant to compliance with the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations when we come back before the Planning Commission, hopefully in December. Thank you.
Thank you. As far as agency responses, and I will say I know there were a lot of people that said they sent emails to both myself and Jim Silliman. Most of those answers needed to be answered by Jim Silliman, so that's why a lot of you all did not get a response from me, because that stuff goes way over my head. I don't have all those fancy numbers and letters after my name, so I deferred most of those answers to him. I will address a couple, but I don't know if Derek, if you have anything you want to say first, since a lot of those questions either dealt with roads or dams or communication with Division of Water, if you want to answer anything.
Sure. I'm just going to touch on it briefly. The bulk of the comments that have been made, Jim Silliman has already received the bulk of those and answered a lot of them. I'm not going to go through the details of a lot of those answers right now, but I will say this. Regarding traffic impact on the roads, I think I've already mentioned a lot of that in the letter that I wrote. We are going to be working, we've already been discussing with the developer to come up with a plan regarding which roads would be better suited for construction traffic. We've already been working with the developer regarding the traffic impact study that they are working on to assess, impact on roads. South Camden Road is currently slated for paving in our current paving package, but I believe since we have not had a pre-construction meeting with the contractor yet, I think we might be adjusting those paving requirements based on the coordination that we're having regarding what improvements might be looked at, because obviously we don't want to pave certain sections of a road just to rip it up to make improvements. So we will be working with you on that. Jim Silliman has already been communicating with the Kentucky Division of Water to get them in the loop regarding stormwater runoff detention and things like that. Oldham County Engineering is the proper office for reviewing all of the runoff, detention, water quality, sediment control facets of the construction plans. So I've made notes of all of your comments regarding that. And we've already been talking with KYTC and the Division of Water regarding responsibilities regarding the bridge maintenance and weight restrictions. So I don't have definitive answers, but we have been discussing it with people. So
I think Mr. Arth talked about the $1,500 per home fee, which was from the '07 study. Do you want to, I know you mentioned already that there's further discussions about what that money is in terms of 2025
correct
money.
It was in my letter. Engineering is going to be requesting that binding element to be applicable for this development and updated for construction costs and inflation. Like I said, we're going to be continuing to coordinate with the developer regarding that cost and any cost that the county may contribute for road improvements. So it's a discussion we're having right now.
All right. So a couple comments that I had. I think Mr. Volk, or Ms. Volk, I think was her name. She had referenced a map that was sent by Planning and Development. I'm guessing that's the one that was attached in the mailing. And I don't know if GIS wants to comment on this, but all of those lines that are on our GIS map are simply for planning purposes only. Those aren't survey grade. So a lot of times those lines don't necessarily match up. So that may be something with that. But of course, with their plans, that will come from a certified surveyor to do that work. So did want to elaborate on that map. I know there's been some talk about the comp plan and what is required and what is not required. Keep in mind, the comp plan is a vision for the course of 5 years. So there's really nothing that's in the comp plan that has required language. Required language comes within the zoning ordinance itself and the regulations. So there's nothing in the comp plan that says connectivity is required. Now, it does say in there that connectivity is encouraged for multiple reasons, and we talked about emergency response being one of those. If there's an accident on a main road getting into your subdivision, that allows for another point of access just for you all to be able to get home. So there's a lot of different reasons why we would encourage that connectivity. But once again, that word is encouraged. It is only a second point of access to a subdivision in our regulations is only required if there's greater than 200 homes, is the way that it's written right now. We had another develop here not too long ago on Fieble Lane, in between Fieble and Carpenter, and that was a big point of contention out there, is that originally the developer had put in the connectivity, ended up taking it out. So the requirement is 2 entrances for anything greater than 200 homes, which this development does not have. But once again, in our comp plan, it is encouraged for multiple reasons to have that connectivity, but it's encouraged. Now, we're going through the comp plan right now. There's a lot of people in the community that want required language in the comp plan, which we don't want to put in there for a lot of reasons like this. You all are here to talk about being against connectivity. If we were to put required language like that in the comp plan, it now makes it to where you all don't get a say. It's required. They've got to do connectivity when possible. The other thing in the comp plan that's going to be referenced probably in this case is that we always try to look for infill of development. There's a lot of individuals out in the county that own agricultural land. They don't want to see subdivisions going out there. So we encourage, once again, the word encouraged, infill of property. So around other existing subdivisions on empty land, we encourage infill of development in those areas rather than expanding out further and further into the county, which we get input about that too. So just understand that comp plan, there's a lot of encourage language, a lot of should language, and I think she even pointed that out in the regulations, or somebody did. The regulatory aspects of when it's required are found in the zoning ordinance. So just a little bit of class on the comp plan, I guess. I think that's really all I had from my standpoint. I don't know if Chief, if you want to talk, I know there was some talk about emergency response of multiple entrances into a subdivision, of how that goes into play with emergency response. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all. And
I think the only time that's really going to come into play is if we have something on South Camden where we can't make entry to the subdivision from that location. That's really it. I'm sorry. If something happens on South Camden, it allows us access back into that community. And that, again, that's why I say I think something really needs to be done with South Camden as far as the widths of that road, because there's times that we're having issues getting fire apparatus through. Cars have to get off the roadway so we can get through. So, but that would be the main reason there.
okay. And then, Mr. Williams, you had stepped out for a little bit. You answered one of the questions about the redistricting, but I guess the initial part of that gentleman's question talked about just kind of what goes into determining that 35 permits per number. I know he had asked for, the equation, and I know you gave us the preliminary number, but if you want to give a little spiel on that.
So that was created over a 5-year process, and basically it looks at the capacity of the campus, of the serving campus. So the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. It adds in any proposed subdivisions that still have capacity available to them. That gives me then a capacity percentage based on that campus. There's a ratio that we have used and is reviewed annually along with our projections that then spells out if we're at 100%, it's 22 homes per year. If we're at, and it breaks it all the way down. In the ordinances that we share with the county, those were approved from 35 homes to 15 homes per year. Okay, we are a commodity, a utility, just like anything else. We have certain space available. Prior to this, and I will also state that Oldham County is the only county in the state that has a plan that functions like this, that we get at least a little bit of a say. And that we can also, when we say, oh, you're only getting 15 per year, that gives us time to develop the internal capacity that we need. So there's not a magic number I can't give you, oh, it's this times this. It's about 8 or 9 different ratios that play into that calculation that gives me those numbers that spell it out. I can say, you're sitting right here. When I calculate this out, it's still below, it's at 80% or 87%, which grants them the 35 per year based on the ordinance that we have with the county. Does that help?
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's almost everything I wrote down that I think can be answered today. I know there's a lot of questions that were provided in the emails, that's ongoing discussion. I know a lot of those responses will come back from Oldham County Engineer. Mr. Silliman will give a lot of those. So that kind of concludes the public comment. So if you received notice of today's TRC hearing as an adjoining property owner, you will receive that same notice again if and when they apply to go forward to the Planning Commission. We're getting close to holiday season, so typically for the Planning Commission, those are always the 4th Tuesday of every month, but if you can think November and December, we always hit Thanksgiving and Christmas week. So there's only one meeting in early December, and I think it's the 9th. Don't quote me on that, though. I believe it's December 9th is that only meeting. It combines the November and December meeting. So if they determine the traffic study and get their plans done, you'll receive notice of that meeting. Could potentially be the earliest they could go on an agenda would be that December meeting. With that being said, does anyone have anything else? I don't think so. So if so, we'll consider this meeting adjourned at 2:05. Thank you.